Hey guys, it's Chris at the Ultimate Recycler. Here we have a pile of stuff I recently bought off a guy. We'll call him Bernie because that's his name. And I know you guys like these valuation and picking type videos. I'm getting a good response from them, so I'll throw them in quite regularly. What happened here, the guy rang me up, Bernie rang me up and said, got some old tools, I'm cleaning up the shed. Some of them were my dad's. And he said, are they worth anything? And he sent me some pictures, and in the pictures there was all nicely laid out a lot of these tools. There's some adjustable wrenches and tin snips and various other gadgets, and probably some of these ones I think he had in the picture, and also some of the saws. And I texted back and said, look, there's not a lot of value, I can't see anything outstanding, but I'd probably offer you $100 a lot if you want to bring them up to my shop. So he said, yep, no worries, we'll do that. And he brought them up. And when he got here a few days later, he said, well, there's a few other things I found. There's an old radio or two and a camera and a few other bits of, that's a flash off a camera, a bit of photography stuff. What's this one? I think this was an old shaving, electric shaver, Ronson. Oh, I can't open it one hand. There we go. So yeah, a few other bits and pieces and some old tins, he said. So he brought all them up as well. I had a quick scan and I said, all right, Bernie, how about 150? And what I'll do for you is I'll go through and I'll check some things out, and if anything turns out to be really good, I might give you a bit of extra money, which I like to do for people. And I'm sure when I say that, a lot of people actually never believe me, because not very many businesses these days contact you a few weeks or a month down the track and say, here's some cash for you. But I like to work that way. It's really good advertising. And I work on a bit of a formula which some of you may have seen on some of our pickers videos, and I will do a separate video showing how we work out whether we're going to give any money back. We have a particular formula we like to use. But anyway, as far as this video goes, I'm going to keep track of my time. I'll clean up a bit of stuff. I'll go through and check some things, and I have a suspicion that this camera might be all right. The radios aren't anything flash. This one's more vintage, but it's a bit rough. I don't think there's any outstanding tools. But what we'll do is we'll go through it. We'll itemize it all. I'll clean up some things. We'll give you a bit of an idea on prices as we go. I'll keep track of my time, as I said. And we'll come up with a final figure and see whether we get any cash back to Bernie. Okay, let's have a bit of a scan for a start, because I need to sort some things. I'm not going to wash up stuff of no value. Now, these old wood saws or panel saws, this one's clearly damaged. It doesn't look like it's a particularly early one anyway. Generally, these don't bring very much money. It's got a little name badge on it. But because it's damaged, I think it's probably only going to be a few dollars. They sell okay to people that like to do folk art paintings. Now this is a bit of an older one, but it's quite rusty. It has got an older style timber handle. We might give that a little bit of a clean up. Again, it's got a little name plate there. And the brands you want to look for, Diston are a good saw, and there's a few others, a few Australian ones. Spear and Jackson are well known. And this is a Spear and Jackson here, but it's a bit more modern. Still, that would suit someone that wanted to do folk art painting, and we may get $5 for that. So the damaged one, I might just have a pile of $1 stuff, and some of these better ones I think we'll wash up and see if we can get a bit more for them. This one's got a nice old handle, and it doesn't appear to be damaged. So the shape of that handle tells me that's a much older saw, and this could have been his father's. Oh, it just got a chip at the top corner there. However, I think that one's worth cleaning up, and we may get $10 for something like that. We'll see how it looks when it's cleaned up. This one's pretty well just going in the scrap shred pile. It's very modern. It probably was a good brand, I think. Sandvik, good brand, but it's well and truly beyond use, I think. So that one's probably just going in the shred steel pile. So it doesn't appear to be anything outstanding here. That's a nice older handle again. Yep, I think that one's well worth a clean. And if they come up really nicely, we can polish up these brass pieces. They might make $20, so it's worth going to the effort to clean them. This one looks like it's had new bolts in it, but it is a complete saw, so that's going to be worth it, probably at least $5. I won't wash up some of these, I'll only wash up the better ones. That's a distant saw, but it's a more modern one. Still, I think that's worth giving a little bit of a quick scrub. That might make $10. Now these older saws, you can reset the teeth and they can be sharpened, and they were good steel on the older saws. So basically I'll sort these and I'll wash a few of them up, and there'll be a couple of them that are probably just going to go in the dollar pile. Okay, we'll get back to the saws in a minute, but let's have a look at the tins. Now I have sorted the tins, and what I've done is these ones here are quite modern. Looks like they may have had a garage sale. There was some prices on some of them. But any tins that are fairly modern or don't have any collectible value, which you know, anything with a barcode is unlikely to be collectible. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but these ones are all pretty average. Nothing here takes my fancy, and I'm not going to clutter my shop up with just $1 items. So what I've done with this box lot is these are free. I'm putting these out the front of the shop, and people can help themselves. If they don't go in a reasonable amount of time, I'll put them in the recycle bin, because they can go as well. I mean, they are steel, but it's not worth my while stacking them up and taking them to the scrapyard. They hardly weigh anything, but they can go in the recycle bin and they will get recycled. These other ones, now some of them are modern, but I think these have got some potential to get some dollars back. Those two are like canisters. They're fairly modern ones again. This one as well, and it looks like it's been used as a canister. So May Gibbs Gum Nut Babies, I think that'd be very modern. It's got a barcode again, but look, I think that might still get $5. There's another one in here which I think has pictures, Darcy Doyle pictures perhaps, are they? I'm not too sure, but that'll sell. That'll at least get $5, even though it's got a barcode. Little house type cottage ones, and I think there's one inside it, so they might get 10. That one doesn't look anything flash. That can go in the free one. Now this is a bit older. It's still in grams, but it is a bit older. I'm not sure if it's an English or Australian tin. Not sure. The Aussie tins get a lot better value here. I guess it depends what country you're in, but I think that one will sell as a cake tin. We might just put 5 on that one. This little hinged tin is quite a nice one. This one's actually made in England. So that's a cute little tin. Again, it might only be 5, but we're going to get a bit of value there from these ones. Whitman's chocolates, that's a very large tin, and someone might have a use for that one. So look, we'll add those ones up and we'll get a figure on the tins. And then we need to have a look at this other stuff and see if we've got any value here. And I forgot to mention earlier, there were some jerry cans as well. They're not old ones, they're 20-litre ones, and they're a bit rusty on the bottom. I think they're okay inside. And this is a cute little one. This is just a 10-litre one. It's a little bit older, I think, that one. So I'll clean them up and make sure they're okay inside. I'm thinking we might get $20 for that little one if it's nice and clean. We may get 20 for that if it's good inside, because it is an older one. Maybe 10. That one might be 10. But if they are a bit rusty inside, suddenly they're only going to be $5 each. So we will check those out shortly as well. Okay, it's time to surmise Bernie's deal. Did we do well out of the stuff he brought up? Will we give him extra money? Did we pay too much? Now, I can tell you that I spent about 4 hours, a little bit over actually, but we'll go on 4 hours cleaning all this stuff up. And I've priced it all, and I've got some totals, and we'll go through the facts and figures now. For a start, there was a little bit of rubbish. When I say rubbish, it'll go to the e-waste transfer station. They're just badly corroded. They weren't going to go. There was broken clips on those little two-way radios, and they're only like $15 each new anyway. The camera flash was corroded. The other camera thing was broken. So that'll go to the transfer station as e-waste, so no rubbish there. And I cleaned up everything else. I tested that radio. It works okay. We just put $10 on it. The shaver actually works fine. It's 1960s vintage. We put 10 on that. And all the tools cleaned up pretty well, but it was quite a lot of scrubbing, quite a lot of time spent cleaning. I did research a few. So let's get down to tin tacks. We'll see what it all worked out at. Now, these saws, a couple of them cleaned up really well. Basically, I just gave them a good scrub, and I'll tell you how I cleaned up these tools. I used some steel wool. I used a wire brush in some cases, and these Stilo pads. They're actually soapy fine steel wool, and they really do clean the tools up pretty well. It is a bit of hard scrubbing, and I didn't do it all in one hit. I did a few each morning for a while to get through them. So it's a fair bit of labour. And these saw blades cleaned up quite well, and the timber cleaned up, and I just gave it a bit of a wipe over with beeswax, polished the brass a little bit, and I also smeared a bit of beeswax down the blade, which will just stop it rusting. So they cleaned up pretty well. Anyway, back to the figures. I've got a full list here, 2 full pages, and I've estimated what I'm going to ask for things. There were a couple of nice surprises, and one particularly very nice surprise. So, what happened? What did we find? Well, by cleaning up, by spending the time, you do find treasures. And I'll give you a couple of examples. That box is mostly average stuff, and they're basically about $5 each. The saws weren't much over there. These were a bit better, but let's go to some examples of better stuff I found. Now, these adjustable wrenches, when you clean them up, you can see the details and the manufacturer's marks. This one actually is an International Harvester original toolkit wrench. Without finding the name, it probably would have been a $5, maybe a $10 wrench, and that made it a $20 wrench by identifying where it was from. I could probably throw that on eBay, but I did find a couple that didn't bring a great deal, but I'm sure I'll get 20 for it in the shop. This other one was better, even though it's a bit smaller and probably a little bit more worn in the jaws, but very faintly, by cleaning it up, hopefully you can see that there, the Department of Defense symbol with a broad arrow, and it says in script just above my thumbnail there, it's a little bit hard to pick up in the camera, it says Sunshine. So this was probably a World War II era adjustable wrench made by Sunshine, HVMK Sunshine in Melbourne for the Department of Defence. Very collectible, and I think I put $50, $45 I put on that one. So that uncleaned and a bit rusty, it's probably a $5 wrench. So we've 10 times its money by finding that mark on it. So that's why I like to clean up tools. You can find some really good treasures. Plus they present better. They look much better in the shop. This one was a fencing. I think they were German fencing pliers. Quite good condition. Some of these other ones, they were German ones as well. Nicely marked on the pivot there. Good line, Germany. And really good condition for vintage pliers. The teeth are all relatively undamaged. The cutter blades in the middle there, nice and neat, no notches out of them. So I put 15 on those. They'll sell very well. Uncleaned, they would have been 5. This was a really nice one, and I'll put $30 on this one. Even though it's a nice shape anyway, it's beautifully marked, which I couldn't read when I started. And it's an original Clyburn No. 2 British wrench. And I did check out Clyburn, and I think it was Richard Clyburn was the original manufacturer and is credited with inventing an adjustable wrench way back in 1842, if I remember correctly. Google will tell you if you want to check that out. This one works beautifully. It's not very worn, and this one probably dates to the early 1900s. And I could possibly eBay that again, but I'm happy to put that in the shop for $30. So you can see we can value add by cleaning up things, and as I said, they just present so much nicer. You can smear a bit of oil over them or a bit of beeswax. These are a couple of nice Stilsons in relatively unworn condition. This one's actually excellent. Really good teeth on it, not overly sloppy in the joints. And if you go to buy something like this retail, you'll pay quite a lot of money. So what did I put on that one? Probably about $20. And shouldn't have, yep, 20, and shouldn't have any problems. So our box of average looking tools has really multiplied out to be pretty good value. Let's do a few figures. All of that, there's a whole page there. The wood saws added up to about 125. The tins added up to about 65. There was a couple that I said initially might be 5. I think the May Gibbs one I ended up putting 20 on because they sell on eBay very readily. So this whole page and the other page behind it, it added up to around about $700, I think it was $730 retail. So that's quite phenomenal. That's a really good multiplication effect. And I mentioned we found one really good treasure. Well, have a look at this. This camera is a folding camera. It looks magnificent. I did some photos and threw it on eBay because it's a Voigtlander, and this particular model was apparently quite rare. And I threw it on eBay, and it sold for $650. In fact, it sold for a little bit more. I've taken my fees off that. And it actually, I posted it today, it's been paid for, and it went to Hong Kong of all places. So it was a very sought after camera. It doesn't happen all the time, and I did say to Bernie that I thought it might be worth eBaying. It was much better than I expected. So let's do a few sums. Our 730, I'm going to apply my formula, and I will do a separate video on this formula, and I'll probably use this example for it, but let's go through it quickly now. $730, we'll divide that, or sorry, we'll times that by 0.75 to give us 3/4 of that figure. And I'm just punching the calculator right next to you there. It's around about $550. So that's allowing for things not selling in the shop for what I expect, having to discount stuff when it gets easier, stays in the shop a while, and also people like to haggle when they buy. So potential return brings it down to a realistic return. We're going to add in the $650 that we actually have made, and that gives us a total of $1,200. So that's a pretty good return, and we paid $150. So I could leave it at that. I don't need to contact Bernie again, but I did say I would if we did better than I thought, and this is a formula we like to work to anyway. So with that $1,200, we're going to subtract our labour, and I spent about 4 hours. So I'm going to take $200 off, working on $50 an hour. Brings it down to $1,000. So $1,000 return on our investment. Our investment, I like to triple my money. So if we divide that by 3, we get around about $330. So that figure represents what I would like to pay for a deal like this, and if I can't do that sort of profit, I'm not really interested in buying. Now we've got to subtract from that what we actually did pay, $150. Brings our figure now down to $180. So I'm going to contact Bernie, and even though we only paid $150 initially, I'm going to give him another $180. He'll be, I'm sure he'll be very impressed. It's a great way to market my business. Bernie will talk to other guys at the bowls club. He may find something else down the track. And even though I'm making pretty good profit, I'm fair with him. And, you know, if we do find a really good treasure, he's always going to get a kickback, because that's how I like to work my business. So there we go. That finishes up this deal. I can now go and put all this stuff in my shop and hopefully sell it in a reasonable amount of time without too much discounting. But what it turns out is that Bernie's got some stuff out of his shed. He got some cash in his pocket that he was happy with. He's going to get an extra bonus that he should be super happy with, because it was more than the first lot. I've got some great stock for the shop. I've got good value for my time. I've got good value for my investment. And my customers will still be buying good quality stuff at a pretty reasonable price. So that's got to be considered a win-win-win, or win-win-win-win, however many wins you want to put in it. I don't see any downsides. Nothing went to landfill. That's how I like to operate. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll do a separate one on this formula at some stage, so I don't have to go through it all the time. And I might use this deal as an example and just explain it in a little bit more detail, because there's a lot of labour in these jobs, not only cleaning and fixing various things. See, some of these pliers, there was a pair here before, these ones here, they were very loose in the joint, so I managed to re-rivet it a bit and make them much more usable. So we do value adding where we can, but there's also the time to eBay, to package the item, I guess there's a little bit of risk involved in doing that, because sometimes, you know, there are scammers on eBay, and I have had things lost in the mail before. Anyway, I'll explain all that in a further video. Thanks for watching this one. I hope you're happy. I hope Bernie's happy. We'll see you soon. Bye.